There's two of them back there now, isn't there? I don't even need to look. I could just feel it. I know they're there. Yep, they're multiplying. Yep, okay. Well, you know how this is going to go. Tomorrow, there's going to be 3 of them. And then after that, there's going to be 5 of them. And then after that, there's going to be 12 of them, or however multiplication works. And, yeah, that's it. Humanity's over. Time to check out. You know, we had a good run. We haven't been around for as long as the dinosaurs or anything. But, you know, human ancestors have been around for what, like a couple million years? 3-4 million years? We figured out how stone tools work. You know, we bashed some stones against a rock and made sharper rocks. And then fire, Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, everything leading up to iced tea. You know, everything leading up to iced tea. Now the iced tea's gone. All right, that was the crowning achievement of humanity. It's time to pass the torch, so to speak. It's time to pass the torch. The next step in evolution. I didn't think they were going to be brick people, you know, brick people with wings, but apparently that's the direction evolution's going. So I only hope that, you know, I can finish talking about One Piece before Barry's people just take over the entire planet. Okay, well, anyway, yeah, episode 972 of One Piece. Let's just dive into that, right? And it was a top-tier episode. I mean, it was pretty damn good, right? Oh my god. Some highlights for me are just the scene with Oden just charging through wave after wave of Kaido's beast pirates, you know, attacking him. And then, of course, Oden versus Kaido himself. The scene where Kaido grabs Oden with his mustache and then chucks him like a mile away. That is probably my favorite scene in the entire episode, easily. I mean, we're not even talking about that today, although we should be, but I just love the absurdity of that. That is certainly not something that appeared in the manga. I don't remember reading that in the chapter, right? Although, I don't see it that, you know, well out of the realm of possibility that Oda could have drawn that. Like, I don't know if the anime department went over to Oda and it was like, hey, Oda, we're thinking about, you know, adding in an extra scene with Kaido versus Oden. And Oda's like, oh, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, we want to have Kaido's mustache wrap around Oden and then, like, you know, constrict him and then, like, toss him away with it. And I feel like Oda was probably just like, you go ahead and do that. That sounds awesome. I don't even think he had to think about it if they did ask him or if they just went ahead and did it. Both of those are pretty hilarious in whatever context. But yeah, you do not like underestimate the power of a mustache, okay? The mustache, like, you got Whitebeard back there, okay? You don't think Whitebeard could have fought against somebody with just his mustache, right? You might think that Akainu blew part of his mustache away, but it's, you know, Whitebeard was weak, right? You know, he couldn't just heal. Under normal circumstances, the mustache would have just regrown right then and there, but, you know, Whitebeard, he was pretty beaten down at that point, right? He was in his older age, but yeah, you do not underestimate the power of the mustache. Then there was the scene where Oden jumped on the back of Kaido's tail and was just riding it, like surfing down the side of Kaido's tail, and then the perspective of the anime was so cool, and then finally we get the Togen Totsuka as he uses Oden Nitoryu, slices Kaido up. The sound that came out of Kaido's mouth when that happened, like, you know, like that was an amazing episode, top tier. And on top of that, we also get, we see King and Queen in their younger years, 20 years before the present story time. Now, in the manga, we also saw them as well, but they were in silhouette. Like, we saw Queen in silhouette, like, swinging around some kind of bat kind of weapon. I thought it was a bat that was covered in, like, poison, you know, because Queen, the plague. But in this episode, it's just like a torch. It's just a big torch, you know, on fire that he's just swinging at the scabbards. Then we see King also in silhouette in the manga. We know his outfit looks a little different than it does now in the present, but once again, silhouette, we didn't see it. So here they are right here, 20 years ago. They're still a little bit more in shadow, but we can definitely see their outfits and how they looked and everything like that. I'm assuming Oda probably put their designs, you know, forward so they knew what they looked like back then. So I don't think this is like filler or anything. So Queen pretty much looks exactly like he does right now. Oh, except he doesn't have the, he doesn't have his robotic arm. I just noticed that just now. He doesn't have the robotic arm. So that happened at some point in the last 2 decades. Don't really know how that went down. If he lost his arm and he replaced it with a prosthetic, or if he just decided, because he's like an engineer to begin with. He's kind of a scientist. From what we understand, he has a connection to Vegapunk and Judge and everything. So maybe at some point, I don't know, maybe Queen decided to cut off his own arm and replace it with a cybernetic prosthetic. Who knows? And then we see King here, who's dressed in a dark red suit, as opposed to his black, like, leather gimp kind of style that he does right now. It's still basically the same kind of style. I'm sure it's all leather, but it's dark red, and he doesn't have, like, super sharp spikes coming out of his helmet. It's more like, you know, blunt. And also he has these two giant crosses on the front of his outfit as well. So I put this up on Twitter, and a lot of people were, like, you know, referencing King, like, oh man, he looks like somebody out of, like, the Spanish Inquisition or something. And nobody ever expects the Spanish Inquisition, so I was really surprised by that. But no, people are like, there's like a dark kind of religious vibe coming off a King here, you know what I mean? Kind of something like that. Like, he looks like a character that would belong in, like, you ever play Outlast 2? Something like that. Like, I could see, you know, running around Outlast 2 in that weird, you know, that village in that game, and then all of a sudden King shows up out of nowhere, this huge dude wearing this, and he's like, oh! You know, like just, you know, cuts you down in half or whatever. It's very graphic and, like, blood everywhere. But I want to talk about King and Queen's past a little bit here and what led them to joining the Beast Pirates. Now, obviously, we don't know much about them, but I think this is a very pertinent discussion to have right now, because where we're at right now in the manga is that, you know, King and Queen are fighting against Marco, but I think that part of the battle is going to end very soon, especially with Queen and Marco, because, you know, now Chopper's kind of fighting Queen. Maybe, you know, Drake or somebody will show up and help fight with Chopper. But with King, I think Marco's going to be kind of at his limit here, and Zoro has just, you know, left the battlefield as well. So I think Law is going to take Zoro, heal him a little bit, and we can probably get the Zoro and King fight. I mean, I know Zoro already just did a lot of stuff, and he's kind of drained, but he does have Law with him. If this was any other instance, I would say, I don't know if Zoro's going to be able to get back up, but Law, with his medical expertise, should be able to heal Zoro, and then Zoro can go and help maybe Marco fight against King. There's a lot of people saying, like, oh man, you know, Marco should just fight King one-on-one, you know, Marco being the former, well, he used to be the acting captain of the Whitebeard crew after Whitebeard died, but he was the first mate under Whitebeard, and then King is, like, the first mate, or, like, vice captain under Kaido, that we assume, right? I don't think there's anybody else stronger than King, other than maybe Yamato, but Yamato isn't really on good terms with Kaido right now and everything, so I'm assuming it would just go you know, Kaido and then King is like his right-hand man sort of deal, right? Now, I would love to see just an all-out fight between Marco and King, but I feel like Marco, yeah, he is a little bit out of practice, and also he had to fight against King and Queen for a little while there, so he might just be getting a little bit worn down. In fact, that might even be a thing that King mentions, of like, you know, I've been constantly fighting and training, you know, I don't know what you've been doing in the last year, Marco the Phoenix, but you seem a little bit rusty. And we could still have a moment where Marco, you know, helps defeat King, but it's not just by himself. It's like Zoro shows up, and then we can have the whole thing where, like, you know, Luffy fights against the strongest, and Zoro, you know, the second strongest, and so that would be cool. Or we could have a moment with Sanji. Sanji shows up too, and then maybe it's Marco tags out, and then it's Zoro and Sanji fight against King. That would be really cool as well, but I think that's going to come up pretty soon. The whole Luffy versus Kaido battle, I don't think we're going to see that resumed for a while yet, just because of everything else that we have to focus on with the Tobi Roppo, and we had a lot of setup for the Kaido battle to get to this point right now with Luffy fighting him one-on-one, so hold that for a while. We might cut back to see it a little bit, but I think for the most part, Oda's going to shelf that for a few chapters, and we're going to see what else is going on here. So, in the process of this, I believe we're going to get the backstories in the past for Queen and King. So to talk about Queen just really quick, I think his backstory is something that we can kind of at least, like, King is like a total mystery, and we'll get into more theories with that, but when it comes to Queen, I think it's been laid out a little bit that we understand where he comes from, okay? Queen worked with Judge and Vegapunk at some point, probably, well over 20 years ago, because 20 years ago he was already a pirate working for Kaido, so at least, you know, 30 plus years ago, maybe closer to 40, I like to think that Queen is probably in his mid-50s, same thing with King right now. Judge is like 55, so for them to both be around the same age, that would make sense. Queen knows a little bit about Judge, because the way he was looking at Sanji's, you know, wanted poster and everything, like, Sanji Vinsmoke, so he's Judge's kid, huh? So I made a video about this already, which is why I'm just going to speed through this, but the general premise to take away from that video is that way back in the day, Vegapunk, Judge and Queen were all working together in this science group, and they discovered the lineage factor, the DNA of the One Piece world. They cracked the nut on that. Whether it have been, you know, Vegapunk, Judge, and Queen were all equals, like all partners working there, or if Vegapunk was like the head scientist and then Queen and Judge were like working under him as like assistants, basically what Caesar was later, that's up for debate. But at any rate, all three of them working together figured out lineage factor. And then the government kind of raided their operation. Vegapunk went to go work for the government, and then Judge went to the Germa, and then Queen went to go work for Kaido. And because they're all scientists, all three of them, and they all know about the lineage factor, they each in individual ways figured out a way to weaponize the lineage factor in various means. So Vegapunk, but at the behest of the world government, used the lineage factor to create his artificial devil fruit that Momo has consumed, which was a part of Kaido's fruit that he took after analyzing Kaido's body, okay? And on top of that, we also have the Pacifista program, a lot of other stuff that probably the lineage factor factors into, right? So that was with Vegapunk. Then we had Judge, who decided to take the lineage factor and like, okay, I'm gonna focus on cloning technology. I'm gonna take this DNA and I'm gonna use that to make clones to, you know, bolster the Germa 66's numbers. Also, genetic modification of my own children, which is where you get Reiju, Ichiji, Niji, Yonji, and then Sanji also, who lacked the physical enhancements because of what his mother did, but that's what Judge decided to do with the DNA. And so then you have Queen that didn't make artificial devil fruits, and oh yeah, also Caesar. Caesar followed in Vegapunk's footsteps to create the smiles, like another variation of artificial devil fruits, but Queen didn't go with cloning, he didn't go with artificial devil fruits. Queen went with biological weapons using the lineage factor, literally taking the DNA and messing with it to create the Isoni virus. So it literally turns you into an Isoni, like kind of maybe creating artificial life forms, like Queen created an artificial Isoni, like he literally created a demon, took the DNA out of that demon, turned it into a virus that's highly infectious that can spread, and then that's where the Isoni virus came into play. Same thing with the mummy virus, same thing with all the other different kinds of viruses that exist, I'm sure, in Queen's arsenal. We've only seen 2 so far, but there's probably a lot more, right? So that's probably what happened there with Queen. Why Queen decided to join up with Kaido, probably was just being chased by the world government at that point. Judge had the Germa Empire, so that was kind of a precarious situation for the government because this is like an actual kingdom, especially if Judge utilized all the cloning tech to make like a giant army, then it would make sense why the world government wouldn't want to mess with him right away. But with Queen, they might have just been chasing him down as a rogue scientist, and so Kaido showed up and just like, you know, hey, Queen, I hear you worked with Vegapunk. I hear you got all this science crap. Well, join up with me and use your science for my beast pirates. And Queen was just like, I agree, but I want to have my own dance number every Friday night. It's like, oh man, you join up with me, I'll give you a whole damn stage. You know, you can have your backup dancers. I'll go to Mirrorball Island. I'll pick up some sound equipment. You'll have your dance number set up the best possible way, you know, in the entire world. It's gonna be great. And then Queen is just like, yeah, Zuma, 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 Zuma. I'm in. Okay. Now King's a little bit more of a wild card here. Get it? See it? Because they're all named after cards or card games. See what I did there? Okay. So, I'll tell you what, this outfit, and there were even people saying it, you know, on Twitter, this outfit kind of lends the whole fallen angel or maybe demon race a little bit more believable, right? So the idea I had was, okay, Big Mom mentioned King's race as something that really doesn't exist anymore in One Piece, or, you know, she thought they were extinct. She thought there were no more. And so she knows King is a member of that, so she asks King to join Tautland because, of course, there's only 3 species in the whole world that don't exist in Tautland. We know giants are one, and then King's race is another, and we do not know the third. Now, because King has black wings that are very reminiscent of Skypians, I thought, okay, either Big Mom was talking in general, like, you know, sky races, because, you know, you have the Shandorians and the Skypians that have the wings that go up, and then you have the Bjerkins, like Barry here, or Brickens, where their wings go down, okay, like a Rouge, all right? And then you have King's wings that I believe also go down, but they're black feathered wings, which are unusual. The only character in all of One Piece that has black wings is King, okay? So maybe Big Mom just meant, the sky races in general do not exist in Totland, so you obviously belong to them because you have wings, so therefore, I want you there. Or perhaps Big Mom was referring to, like, okay, 3 races that do not exist in Totland: giants, sky races, and then what you are, which is maybe like the opposite, because the Skypeans had the motif of like angels, right? Like angels and gods. That's kind of what Oda was going for with that arc. Ironically enough, Eneru, who was God, was actually like one of the few characters from the sky that did not have wings. In fact, I think the only character that did not have wings. Interesting enough, he might have ripped them off himself and put the drums on his back. I don't know. So if their motive was angels and gods and like heaven and all that stuff, what if there's an opposite of that where there's like a demon hell kind of race, right? And so that makes you kind of think of Impel Down a little bit. And then you look at, King's outfit, both his outfit from the past and his current outfit, kind of resembles Impel Down's uniform. In fact, when Shiryu defected from Impel Down, he did not really change his outfit all that much. The only thing that Shiryu really did was, and he took off the lapels of the Impel Down logo, and he replaced them with skulls. So this is what Shiryu looks like right now, and then this is, King's outfit. There's similarities here, and Shiryu didn't really change his outfit all that much. He's like still kind of wearing I'm sure it's a new outfit he got tailored or whatever. He's not wearing the same outfit he did 2 years ago, but you know what I mean? It looks very similar. Now, I don't think that means that King used to be like a guard in Impel Down or anything like that, but when you think about Impel Down, you got Hannibal and you had Magellan that had like bat wings, right? And Hannibal in particular, he had that he had like horns coming out of like where his eyebrows were. Okay, so it's kind of a thing where we know in One Piece, like, there are giant humans and stuff, like Whitebeard, and Big Mom is a perfect example of that. It's a thing that you might consider, like, okay, maybe way back in their genetics, way back in their lineage factor, like, giants were there. And so, like, maybe it skips some generations or whatever, or, like, it's a recessive trait, and then that's why, Whitebeard is so big. Whitebeard has giant blood in him from, like, centuries ago. Same thing with Big Mom, right? And, I mean, that would actually make a lot of sense when you're talking about Big Mom particularly, that she has, like, giant blood in her veins, and the relationship that she has with the giants. That's kind of an interesting comparison there. So what if there is some sort of, like, devil race or fallen angel race or something like that that exists in One Piece, and King is like a legitimate member of said race, like the devil race, and he's lived down a lineage that just kind of died out everywhere else. And then you have Magellan and Hannibal and a few other members of the Impel Down staff that are not pure members of that race, but are like they have it in their blood, so that's the reason they have the wings. That's the reason Hannibal kind of has the horns or whatever. What they would exactly look like, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of King taking off the mask and him having like some sort of like lizard kind of face, like some kind of dragon lizard, like scaly kind of facial features. That would actually be pretty cool, or if not that, like he does look like some kind of demon or some kind of devil. Like he has a human appearance, like 2 arms, 2 legs, but he's got the wings and he's got the horns and stuff. Maybe back in the day, maybe his helmet isn't the spikes. Maybe those were like his actual horns, and over the 20 years they just grew larger, and then that's what he has right now, like the giant spikes coming out of him. Also, King has the ability, he's King the Wildfire, so he literally has fire igniting on his back. And not only that, but in the flashback of the last episode, we got him wielding a torch as well, same with Queen, except his torch was blue fire. Now, blue fire, as we all know from Avatar: The Last Airbender, is pretty damn cool, right? And so that raises some questions in and of itself. Like, okay, is King able to change the temperature and the color of his fire? Is blue fire different from regular fire? Like, does it have different properties or whatever like that? I'm not really sure how that goes there. But, yeah, I would say that King is not, like, if he is a member of a sky race, it's kind of like the Bjerkans, where they were like, there was one island of Bjerka and it got destroyed. There might be some other island, like, you're sailing around the White Sea or whatever, and you see this like one like forbidden land, the forbidden land of the sky, and that's the land where King's race originated from, right? Like in that area, and they all got wiped out by some kind of calamity or something, and maybe that was the origin of them. Other than that, I think I threw out a theory a little while ago where King's race is like from like an active volcano. Like if they're like some kind of demon devil race, that would make sense. Like there's some giant volcano in the middle of the new world, and like they have like an underground city. Like if you've ever played RuneScape, kind of like the city where like the fight caves and the fight pits are at, and you fight Jad, you know, down there, you know, kind of like an obsidian city. That's a pretty cool idea, right? If nothing else, it's cool. And so that was where King's race lived, and then they propagated down there, and like they were immune from fire and heat to an extent, but then like there's like a massive eruption that just, you know, even for them was too much to handle, and the whole freaking island just boom, just completely got wiped off the map, and the only survivor was King, and then Kaido showed up and then rescued him and then took him away or something like that. You know, there's just so much guesswork when it comes to King. You just don't know. But I like the idea of the aesthetic being somewhat like a dark religious aspect, and maybe you know, maybe it might have been something like that, where he was like some kind of like dark priest back in the day, and you know, and he was like, maybe, because we don't really go into it that much, but it kind of reminds me of like, okay, Naruto, like with Hidan worshiped like Jashin, you know, so he was like, oh great Jashin, you give me my power, all that kind of stuff. Maybe King was kind of like that. Maybe King was like a missionary or some kind of priest to like some dark god of the One Piece world that nobody even really worships anymore. You know, and that's why he dressed like that with the crosses and the torches and the fire. Like, my fire, my unholy fire will burn away all sinners. Something like that. And you know what? King is just edgy enough to make it work. I don't know what it is. Maybe the full body leather gimp suit. Okay, yeah, it's probably the full body leather gimp suit. That probably gets, and the spikes and the fire and the black wings and the fact he can turn into Rodan. Yeah, I think this could work. I think this could work. But no, yeah. If that was the case, why did he change his outfit or whatever? I don't know. Maybe he was like the dark priest back in the day, and then Kaido picked him up, and he was going through a phase, his little edgy phase or whatever. And it's been 20 years now, so he's decided to like, my only god is Kaido, the great god of the sky, the great dragon duck fish god of the sky, or something like that. But you know what? I'm just saying, like, we don't really know much about King's personality yet. Like, he does not talk very much. He's very stoic. We know him and Queen have sort of like a rivalry sort of thing. Like, they don't really like each other very much. You know, Queen called him like a pervert, you know, from all the leather he wears and everything like that. And we know he's like very loyal to Kaido, obviously, like devoutly loyal to Kaido. But if Oda wants to go a little bit further with it, so we find out more about his personality, and we do find that he has that sort of like, you know, I am the unholy angel messenger. Tokoyami from My Hero Academia would love King. You know, be like, teach me the ways. You know, that kind of stuff. You know, the very edgy sort of way of that, like, my fire shall burn you all away into hell. You know, that kind of stuff. I could see it with King. I really could. But anyway, that's the video. I think we're really going to get their backstories pretty soon, so that's why I'm putting this out. And, you know, like, okay, put this video out. A couple months from now, we find out really what their backstories are about, and we can see how well it syncs up. So, yeah, I hope I could get that done before the entire room is just filled with Barry clones. So yeah, we'll just see where that goes. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking. This will be Barry. This will be Cloneberry001, and I don't even know which number that one is. Okay, I'm gonna stop keeping track. I feel like there's gonna be so many, I'm not even gonna be able to do that anymore. All right, have a good one. Tekking, signing out.